Get everything you thought you knew about beef stroganoff. We're about to unlock the secrets to creating a restaurant-worthy beef stroganoff in your very own kitchen. And we're going to be using the king of beef, the tenderloin. Welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead, where on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today is Tuesday, so this is an edition of Tasty Tuesday. This is a really simple and incredibly delicious meal that you're going to be able to start and serve in less than 30 minutes. Let's get going. We're going to be starting with just about a pound of beef tenderloin, and it is an end piece. It's nicely marbled. It's going to be incredibly tender and flavorful. And because it's not the center cut, it's not the piece of tenderloin that you would want to use to make a beef Wellington. But this beef stroganoff is going to give that dish a run for its money in terms of flavor. We're also going to be using one medium onion, diced. The onion is going to provide that savory goodness. We're also going to use 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm just going to give them a nice chop, just shy of a full mince. And we'll get those set aside. This dish comes together so quick that you want all your ingredients ready to go. Aside from the onions and the garlic, I'm going to be adding in 1 cup of frozen peas. These are sweet peas. 8 ounces of sliced mushrooms. I'm using canned. If you have fresh available, even better. Salt and pepper, of course. I've got half a cup of sour cream, 1 cup of beef broth, half a cup of dry white wine. This is Pinot Grigio, and it is completely optional. If you don't want to cook with wine, you can leave it out. Just increase your beef broth. We're going to be using a tablespoon of butter, a tablespoon of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And last but not least, we're going to be using a tablespoon of flour. And then at the very end, I'll add some freeze-dried herbs to the top as a garnish. And we can go ahead and get started now that all of our ingredients are ready to go, because this is going to go super quick. The first thing I'm going to do is turn on a pot of water to get that up to a boil, because we're going to be serving our beef stroganoff over some egg noodles. And while that's coming to a boil, we're going to get the beef sliced. I'm just going to be cutting this into about 1/4 inch width slices across the grain. And then we're going to take each of those slices and trim them down. So we just want thin strips of beef. That's going to really help this stretch and get a dish large enough to feed an entire family and even have some leftovers. And of course, the addition of the mushrooms and the peas are going to make this a complete meal. And we're only using 2 pans, 1 for the pasta and 1 for the stroganoff. So it'll be easy cleanup as well. This is going to be a super simple weeknight meal that will have everybody coming to the table and asking for seconds. And with our strips all cut down, we're going to get them into the pan. I'm going to start by turning that pan onto a medium high. And I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. And a tablespoon of butter. It's going to help make this a really creamy, comforting dish. And while that pan heats up, we're gonna go ahead and season the meat. Now, seasonings are always to taste, and I'm gonna be using some salt and pepper. You can add as little or as much as you like, and you can always add more later as the dish progresses, so don't over season it at the beginning. So I'm just spreading out my strips here so I can season all of them at once. A couple pinches of pepper, nice sprinkle of salt. I'll get everything turned over and spread back out, and we'll do that one more time. Now I'm going to be cooking this in batches because I don't want to overcrowd the pan. These are going to cook for about 2 minutes per side, and this is probably going to need two batches. You're going to get the best sear on them that way. If you overcrowd the pan, it's going to create a whole bunch of juice inside the pan, and you're not going to get a good sear. So don't crowd your pan. Take your time because this is the key to an amazing stroganoff. Our pan is starting to form some bubbles, so this is coming up to a boil, and this pan is nice and hot. Our oil and our butter are ready to go. So I'm just gonna start laying in some strips. You get an immediate sizzle on there, and about the time I get all of these laid in, it will be time to flip them. This goes super quick. And I always like to go in one direction because then I know that that's the direction I need to flip them in so that they all get about the same amount of time on the sear. And just like that, we're going to transfer these to a plate and set them aside. These will have just a little bit more time to cook as we add the rest of the ingredients. So they don't have to be 100% done at this step. And you don't want them overcooked. This smells amazing already. This smells like dinner time. And we're going to go in with more meat. We're going to go back around and start pulling this meat out. And we still have a few pieces left. The water is up to a boil over here, so I am going to add some salt. And then we'll get our pasta in just as soon as this meat is off the flame. We're gonna time this for about 5 or 6 minutes, and that should be too al dente. Just give that a quick stir. And now we can move on to making the sauce. The sauce is gonna go pretty quick. I'm gonna turn this pan onto about a medium. We're gonna leave all the drippings and all the brown bits that are currently at the bottom of the pan right where they are, and I'm gonna add in the onions. We're gonna cook these onions maybe 4 or 5 minutes, just until they start to soften up and start to get translucent. Give that pasta a quick stir. This is just about done. It only takes 4 or 5 minutes to get that al dente. We're almost there. These onions are taking on a gorgeous color from the beef drippings that were in the pan. They smell delicious, and they're looking really good. We're gonna let those sit here for just a minute because our timer is going off, so our pasta is done. So we're gonna go ahead and take that to the sink and get that drained. We're just gonna get that dumped right into a colander in the sink. And those can wait right there while we finish the sauce. I'm gonna go ahead and add the rest of our vegetables in here now. So I'm gonna add the mushrooms, the peas, which are still a little bit frozen, and that's perfectly fine. The garlic. Now, if you were using fresh mushrooms, you would want to cook this for about 5 minutes, but because I'm using already cooked mushrooms that came from a can, this is going to be ready to move on to the next step in just 1 minute. I'm just keeping everything moving so nothing starts to burn on the bottom of the pan. And once everything is heated through or your mushrooms are cooked, you're gonna add in that 1 tablespoon of flour. Just sprinkle it all over the top of everything and then mix it through. We're gonna cook this for about a minute just to get the taste of raw flour out of there. And then we're gonna add in our beef broth and our wine if you're using wine. And that will help deglaze the bottom of this pan to get up any bits that might be left there, especially from this flour. And that flour is gonna help make this sauce a little bit thick. So it kind of clings to the noodles and clings to the beef. It is so delicious. This gets devoured in our house. I get asked to make this recipe often. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start in with the beef broth. We're just gonna pour that right in. Start to stir things up to deglaze the bottom of the pan. Make sure we've got liquid everywhere and start to scrape up those bits. Anything that's lingering on the bottom. And then I'm gonna go in with half a cup of wine. My other measuring cups were dirty. They're in the dishwasher, so I've got this little bowl here, but this is half a cup. We're gonna mix that all through and just make sure nothing is stuck to the bottom. You should have a clean pan underneath this sauce. Now we're gonna go in with our mustard and our Worcestershire sauce. Now, most recipes will tell you to add a tablespoon of mustard. We don't like it that way, so I cut that way back. I do about a teaspoon or just a little dollop. I find that the mustard can be overwhelming in here, and I would rather taste the savory flavors of the beef and the broth and the wine and the Worcestershire sauce. So this is about 2 tablespoons in my recipe. And I'm just gonna eyeball that. Get that well combined. And now I'm gonna reduce this flame down to barely a simmer. We're gonna let this calm down just a bit, because next we're gonna add in our sour cream and we don't want it to curdle. All right, I'm gonna add in half a cup of sour cream. And we're gonna get that mixed in well. Just gonna stir it around until it blends in nicely and evenly. And at this point, you do not want this pan to come back up to a boil because you will ruin your sour cream. So nice, gentle heat is all you need. Once this is all well combined and mixed together, we're gonna go ahead and add our beef back in. This looks lovely. That's perfect. All right, now we're gonna go back in with the beef. And any juices that have accumulated on the bottom of your bowl or your plate as well. We're gonna get that beef folded in. And you can let it hang out here for a minute or two, as long as your flame is on low. That looks delicious. And the way we like to serve this in my house is we like to mix the noodles right into the pan. So we're gonna take those al dente noodles and we're gonna add them in. I don't typically add all of them. I like to reserve a little noodles for maybe a couple days from now if somebody wants a side dish with their meal, because we're not really big on sides here. I don't do a lot of sides. So I'll usually reserve some of the noodles, but you can add all of them in, of course. It'll also depend on how much sauce you made. You just want everything to be well coated. And here we have an amazing skillet filled with incredibly delicious, decadent, flavorful, tender beef tenderloin stroganoff. From start to serve in under 30 minutes. It couldn't be easier or more delicious. And to finish the dish, I'm gonna add a little bit of freeze-dried parsley over the top. You can also add dill, any seasoning of your choice. Let's get plated up. It really is that easy to get an amazing dinner like stroganoff onto the table on a busy weeknight in under 30 minutes. Let's give this a try. Now, normally I start with an isolated vegetable, but they're kind of mixed in here, so we're just gonna take a bite. We've got some peas and some beef and some noodles here. That is incredible. That beef is so tender, so incredibly flavorful, perfect amount of salt and pepper. Everything was added in perfect proportions so that they all just blend together beautifully. Let's give that a try with a mushroom. This is so incredibly good. Comfort food at its finest. Couldn't be simpler to put together. Now, I do a cow share every year, and so I never get the whole tenderloin. I only get, an end piece. And so this is what I love to do with that because it comes out so beautifully. But you can make it with other cuts of meat as well if you don't have access to a tenderloin. You might just want to tenderize the beef. Like if you're using a roast or something, you can tenderize it first. Showed how to do that on, I think, last week's video, my beef and broccoli recipe. So feel free to check that out if you'd like to use a tougher cut of meat. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Tasty Tuesday, Beef Tenderloin Stroganoff edition. My name is Kelly, you're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.